Today I'm gonna explain an action and sci-fi film called Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. John Connor wishes that fate hasn't been written. However, before he was born, machines from the future known as Terminators have threatened his life. His mother warned him about Judgment Day, which would spark the war against the machines. According to her, John is destined to lead the surviving humans to victory. John believes that they've already stopped Judgment Day. Still, he doesn't feel safe, so he lives off the grid to avoid being traced. In his dreams, he still sees the future battle against the menacing machines. John wakes up and takes his motorcycle to ride to another town to hide. However, a deer blocks the road, and John falls off his motorcycle while trying to avoid it. Meanwhile, at Beverly Hills, a portal opens, and a female TX Terminator appears. The TX kills a lady to steal her clothes and car. While driving, the woman uses the lady's phone to track down her targets. Elsewhere, Kate Brewster and her fiancé Scott Mason shop for tableware. She gets a call from her father, Lieutenant General Robert Brewster, who apologizes since he cannot meet with them due to trouble at his work. Despite this, Robert is confident that Scott is a good man since Kate always made the right choices. After the call, Robert receives a report that a computer virus has infected the internet and military applications. The Pentagon wants to use an AI to destroy the virus, but Robert disagrees since they'll end up putting all crucial military data into the AI called Skynet. In Southern California, another portal opens, revealing a male T-850 Terminator. Meanwhile, John breaks into an animal hospital to treat his wounds. The T-850 heads into a bar and is mistaken for an entertainer for the ladies. He approaches the male dancer on stage and asks for his clothes. The dancer tells him to talk to the hand, so he breaks his hand and steals his clothes before stealing a truck outside. Meanwhile, the TX shoots a fast food worker named Jose Barrera, then goes to a house to kill a teenager named William Anderson. Kate wakes up in her bedroom after receiving a message on her phone. She heads to the animal hospital where she works to prepare for an emergency consultation. However, she finds an empty medicine bottle, so she decides to call the police about the break-in. Suddenly, John appears and aims a gun at her, so she puts the phone down. He excuses that he needed medicine but couldn't go to a hospital. Kate tosses him the medicine bottle to distract him and steal his gun, which is apparently a paintball gun. She then shoves John into a cage and locks him inside. Kate leaves him as her client arrives with her cat. Kate sends her to one of the exam rooms when she realizes something. She goes to John and reveals that she knows him from junior high, noting a time they spent together in a basement. Suddenly, there's a loud crash, so Kate checks on it. Before she gets far, she hears gunshots, and her client falls to the floor. Kate hides while the TX confirms that the dying woman is not Kate. The TX goes to the surgery room and finds a bloody towel. She licks the blood, identifying the DNA as John's, her primary target. Kate uses the chance to run back to her truck, but the android catches up and throws her off the vehicle. The TX interrogates her about John, but a truck suddenly speeds toward them and knocks the android off. The T-850 steps out and puts Kate at the back of her truck. He asks where John is, promising to release her if she tells. Kate answers that John is in a cage, and the android still locks her inside. Suddenly, the TX's hand punches out of the debris just as John breaks out of the cage. He sees the T-850 and recognizes him. The android takes him to the truck and tells him to escape while he deals with the TX. He shoots the female with a gun, but the TX easily defeats him with an energy blast. John drives away just as police officers and firefighters arrive. While they're busy, the TX reprograms the vehicles and remotely drives them while she drives in a mobile crane. The T-850 awakens and steals a police motorcycle to chase after her. While driving, John realizes that Kate is at the back. She demands to be released, but despite not knowing why she's there, John refuses. He crashes against a car whose driver berates him. Kate gets the driver's attention, and the remote-controlled police cars arrive. Finally, John drives off with the cars on his tail. The cars try to knock him off the road, causing the truck to spin. With the TX catching up, the vehicles pin him in place. However, John hits the brakes, releasing his truck so he can evade her blast. He then drives into the empty sidewalk, so the TX swerves the crane to the side to catch them. Finally, the T-850 catches up and shoots her wheels. The crane knocks him off his motorcycle, but he holds on to the hook. The TX slams the T-850 into a building, but he continues to hold on. She knocks him off onto a fire truck, which he steals. The T-850 catches up to her and jumps into her vehicle before she blows up his. He then throws her off and drops the crane into a utility hole. He jumps onto Kate's truck just as the TX gets back into the mobile crane. When the hook gets stuck, the vehicle flips, but the android survives. The T-850 hops into the van and John asks if he remembers him, but the android notes that he's a different model from the one who protected John before. When John tells him to release Kate, the T-850 explains that she must be protected as well. The TX was sent to eliminate his lieutenants because they couldn't track down John, revealing that Kate would also be part of the resistance. John is in disbelief since he thought Judgment Day wouldn't happen anymore after he destroyed Cyberdyne, the creator of Skynet. The T-850 notes that he merely postponed Judgment Day. Noticing damage on his torso, the T-850 removes one of his plasma cells, which powers his system. He explains how the TX is a more advanced model that can remotely control other machines. He notes that in comparison, he's an obsolete design. After he tosses his damaged plasma cell, it explodes. Later, they stop at a gas station to refuel. The T-850 randomly takes junk food to feed Kate and John. When the clerk asks if he'll pay for them, the T-850 tells him to talk to the hand. He then opens the back of the truck, allowing Kate to scream for help before he shoves her back inside. Seeing the clerk call the police, John hops in the back of the truck while the T-850 drives. To explain what they're doing, John asks the T-850 to tell Kate who he is. The T-850 explains that John is the Resistance's leader and humanity's last hope. John adds that the T-850 is a robot from the future. Kate isn't convinced and tells him that her fiancé will be looking for her. Suddenly, John remembers that he and Kate made out in the basement she mentioned earlier, but Kate defends that she only remembered because he was on the news the next day. John realizes that they were together the day before he met the other Terminator. At Kate's apartment, Scott wakes up to find the TX on his bed. It activates a weapon, and Scott could only scream. Moments later, two detectives knock on Kate's apartment, and a blank-eyed Scott answers. They question him about Kate's disappearance and mention the gas station where she was seen. Scott then offers to help find her. The T-850 takes Kate and John to a mausoleum where they find the grave of Sarah Connor, John's mother. John starts to mourn, having not known where she was buried. The T-850 suddenly pulls out the coffin, revealing weapons inside. He reveals that Sarah was cremated in Mexico, and the weapons were stored as per her will. Seeing an opportunity, Kate grabs one of the handguns and aims it at the T-850. Unfazed, he approaches, and John dares her to shoot him. The T-850 grabs the gun just as Kate pulls the trigger at his face. He merely spits out the bullet, unharmed. Smoke bombs are suddenly thrown inside. The police have the place surrounded, so Kate runs to them. John tells the T-850 that he's not the leader he wants to be, frustrated with how his life has been revolving around that future. As he rants, the T-850 grabs him by the throat. When John gets angry, the Terminator is satisfied, noting that it's better than despair. Meanwhile, the detectives drive with the blank-eyed Scott to the cemetery. After confirming Kate's location, Scott kills the detectives and drives. The T-850 comes out from the mausoleum carrying the coffin. They rain bullets at him, but he remains unharmed. He shoots back at them to keep them at bay while ensuring that no one truly gets hurt. He slides the coffin into a hearse, revealing that John is inside. The T-850 asserts that they have to get Kate back since she's the key for John to access the military and learn how to destroy Skynet. He adds that their children will also be vital to the future, confirming that Kate is John's future wife. Kate runs from the scene and sees Scott exiting the detective's car. Before she gets close, however, Scott transforms into the TX. The T-850 blocks her path and shoots a bazooka at her. Confused and afraid, Kate hops into the hearse and they drive away. The T-850 explains that the TX can change into any form it touches, so the real Scott is likely dead. The TX runs after their vehicle and drops onto the roof. She begins sawing through the roof, so the T-850 drives side to side to force her off. Still, she holds on, and when she opens the roof, John rains bullets at her. The T-850 sees a truck and drives under it, tearing the TX and the roof off the vehicle. The TX survives the crash. However, her primary weapon is damaged. She switches her weapon into a flamethrower before proceeding. The T-850 drives to a campsite and steals a camper van. While loading their weapons, John offers sympathy to Kate, who's mourning Scott. John then asks T-850 about the TX's targets. As the T-850 lists the names, Kate hears that her father is amongst them. He warns that if the TX cannot eliminate John, she will resume with the rest of her list. Kate shares that her father is in the weapon design department at the Air Force, but the T-850 corrects her that Robert is a cyber research systems program director, which is currently working on Skynet as a digital defense system. John realizes that if the Terminators didn't arrive when they were younger, John and Kate would have been together. Thus, John would have met her father. Her father is the key to shutting down Skynet. He urges them to save Robert, but the T-850 refuses as his mission is to keep John and Kate alive. He reveals that Judgment Day starts in 3 hours, so he'll take them to a safe location to survive. John refuses to let it happen, so he holds a gun to his head to threaten the T-850. Kate then begs the Terminator to save her father, and he surprisingly complies. On the way to the CRS, Kate asks why the T-850 is on their side, so the Terminator reveals that he was captured and reprogrammed by the Resistance. He adds that he's programmed to follow her commands because she's the one who sent him into the past. The T-850 adds that she's John's wife and second in command in the future, and that he killed John before he was reprogrammed. At the CRS facility, Robert learns that their primary military systems are now down. Other countries' systems are also affected. While Robert talks to the Pentagon chairman, the TX arrives in the facility. The chairman orders Robert to activate Skynet as a defense mechanism against the virus, but he asserts that the AI is not ready. Robert warns that if they release Skynet into their systems, it'll be in control. However, the chairman points out that Robert will be in control of Skynet, so he forces him to launch it. Meanwhile, the TX finds the earliest models of the Terminators called the T-1. She infiltrates his system to take control of them. Robert reluctantly activates Skynet, allowing them to connect back to their military systems. Seconds later, all their computers go dark. When they reactivate, everything glitches. Suddenly, Kate arrives but is gunned down by the T-850. The real Kate appears, revealing that the other is the TX, who shoots Robert. The T-850 shoots the TX until she falls into the elevator shaft. As Robert struggles with his bullet wound, John tells him that Skynet is the virus. The system became self-aware and will launch a nuclear attack against humans. An army of T-1s infiltrate the facility and gun down every human they find. John and Kate carry Robert to his office to get his access codes, while the T-850 destroys 2 T-1 machines. They reach the office where John takes a red envelope to get the codes. Robert then tells him to get to Crystal Peak, a facility within the Sierra Nevada mountains where John assumes Skynet's core is. A missile crashes into the office. Kate finds her father dead, but John urges her to leave so they can shut Skynet down. Upon exiting, the TX finds them.
Wow, dein neuer Streaming-Service.
Wow.
So the humans run while the T-850 battles her. He throws her against the wall and steps on her head, but she remains unharmed. He then throws her around, but she still overpowers him. The two Terminators take turns ramming each other against the walls, yet neither gives up. They crash onto the bottom floor, and the TX rearranges her body to burn off the T-850's skin. In turn, the T-850 rams a live wire onto her neck, overriding both of their circuits. Still, the TX remains functional and breaks the T-850's neck. Afterward, she prepares to reprogram him. Kate and John find the particle accelerator that leads to the runway, but are blocked by a weaponized drone. They duck when it fires at them. Then Kate shoots it until it explodes. John notes that Kate's bravery reminds him of his mother's. When they reach the control room, Kate sees a TX arriving. John activates the particle accelerator, and they rush in. The TX chases after them, but her weapon malfunctions when the accelerator's magnetic core activates. It pins her and destabilizes her components. Kate and John reach the runway just as the T-850 wakes up, while the TX saws through the magnetic core to deactivate it. Having trained how to fly the plane, Kate heads into the pilot's seat. John finds the T-850 approaching, but he warns them to get away as the TX has corrupted his system. John boards the plane, but the T-850 pulls him back out. Kate tries to tackle him, but he throws her off. While the T-850 pins him against the car, John asks what his primary objective is. The T-850 answers that his mission is to ensure John's and Kate's survival, and John points out that he's about to fail. This effectively halts the T-850 from attacking as it fights off the TX's commands. He throws John off and then proceeds to smash the vehicle. Suddenly, he shuts down. Kate and John enter the plane and leave. John prepares bombs to destroy Skynet's core. Just as they reach Crystal Peak, the T-850 reboots. John and Kate head inside the warehouse and head for the blast doors ahead. While using Robert's access codes to open it, a helicopter crashes in, operated by the TX. As she approaches, they input the final codes and open the blast doors. Suddenly, another helicopter crashes in, knocking the TX down. The T-850 arrives and assures John that he's back. The blast doors start automatically closing due to the impact, so the T-850 holds it open for John and Kate to enter. However, the TX grabs John's leg. The T-850 breaks the TX's arm to free John. The TX crawls inside, but the T-850 grabs her and removes his last plasma cell. He shoves the cell into her mouth, and it erupts, killing both Terminators. John and Kate reach an elevator that takes them deep inside the facility. However, when they get there, they find a fallout shelter instead of Skynet's core. Kate realizes that Robert and the T-850 sent them there to survive, so John mournfully concludes that they never had a chance to stop Skynet. Suddenly, they hear voices over the radio, panicking over the news of a nuclear launch sequence. John turns off his detonator and holds Kate's hand, reluctantly accepting what's to come. The attack begins precisely as the T-850 predicted, killing the humans that created the machines. Soon, the world erupts as multiple missiles descend upon humanity. John wonders if his fate has been written, but he won't stop fighting, just as the Terminator taught him.